Welcome to the Young Turks. Michael Shore with you on a Monday morning live from Los Angeles, California, and we are in the midst of I think a terribly named attack in Libya. It's either depending on who you're listening to, it's Operation Odyssey Dawn. Some people are calling it Operation Odyssey Down, but in fact, it's I think one of the worst named military actions that we have taken. It's causing a lot of consternation for our president, our nation. It is also causing a lot more trouble for Muammar Gaddafi than it is for either of the aforementioned people or things. I think the president, and we'll discuss this a little bit. The president has been hard pressed to define exactly what the goals are in Libya right now. The update is, and what's happened thus far, is that overnight there's been a tremendous amount of bombing in Libya. The bombing at the compound of Gaddafi. Gaddafi's not there, and the White House and the Defense Department and all of their communicators are saying that the intent is to disable the munitions of Libya, of Colonel Gaddafi, and we've talked about it before, but it's amazing that after all these years, he's still only a colonel. I mean, you'd think that somebody, even himself, he could promote himself. But they seem to have really taken apart his compound, though they say to this moment that they do not have any idea, or they're not disclosing it certainly, of where Gaddafi is. There have been rumors that he's in another town, even that he's holed up in a fortress. But the idea here, and the idea behind this weekend's attacks, and it is a coalition. It is not necessarily a feeble coalition. The detractors are Russia and China. Brazil and India haven't embraced it, and Venezuela, for whatever that matters. We mention it because they mention it, but Venezuela has also included their disrespect for our action in Libya. The idea is to enforce the no-fly zone. At least those are the auspices under which we have gone in with cruise missiles. We have not flown over Libya yet, but these cruise missiles are, in fact, American armaments, and they are being, I would say, dispatched with the British, with the French, and with a lot of the agreement of the Arab League. But not to be forgotten, though, is what's going on in Yemen as well, and we'll get to that a little bit later, in Bahrain as well, and hundreds of Libyans in other parts of Libya, not necessarily in Tripoli and not necessarily in the western portion, which is where a lot of the anti-aircraft military of the Libyan army is located. So right now there's really a concentration on disabling Gaddafi's ability to take down planes in that no-fly zone. The argument is that they've done it without Gaddafi cooperating with the no-fly zone or the ceasefire that he said was going to happen, that they're doing it with United Nations approval. It's one of the problems that I have with this is that we've gotten the approval of the Arab League, we've gotten the approval of the United Nations for this, we've gotten the approval of a handful of our closest allies, but the president did not go to the U.S. Congress to get approval to do this. And, you have to be consistent. We sat here for years taking President George W. Bush and his entire administration, Donald Rumsfeld, Dick Cheney, some of the other crazies like Wolfowitz down, with Doug Feith for sure. We still continue to do that. But if you're going to spend years complaining that they didn't go to the U.S. Congress to gain authority to do what they did, or that they got false authority under false pretense, then you have to be consistent. The president should have gone to Congress, and the Congress should have questioned the president. Yes, there was a Situation Room meeting with some of the top brass of the U.S. Congress, but the president should have gone a little deeper. The White House, I believe, should have gone a little deeper, and we're going to explore that a little bit on today's show. Also, keep in mind, the Anna Hour is next, and Anna's always afraid when I join her in that hour because she thinks that I know nothing, and I look down upon all that pop culture and social commentary stuff. I love it. She's wrong. She's great, and we'll have a good time here in the next hour. Cenk will be back on Wednesday.
So what is it that you know?
What do I know?
This whole the Anna Hour that you're so up on everything.
Well, first of all, I get a briefing that's hand delivered to me at home of some of the pop culture things we're going to be talking about. I stayed in a hotel with Justin Bieber last week, which makes me feel like I know more than anybody in this room.
You guys sat and chatted?
We didn't. Yeah, well, we didn't sit and chat. We stood and chatted, and this is what our chat was. He was getting off the elevator, and I did one of these, and he did one of these, and that was it. That was our chat.
He didn't give you a full head nod. He gave you eyebrows instead of a nod.
I gave him the nod. He gave me the eyebrows. I saw him 3 times during my stay. And the pandemonium over the Beeb is pretty crazy, and I kind of made that's what I call him, by the way. I don't know if you guys are up on.
I mean,
that,
after y'all's deep contact, of course.
Yeah, well, I call him the Beeb, and he calls me the guy in the hall. But he's a real star, this kid, and I'm gonna let you guys know all about Justin Bieber in the second hour.
I'm ready for that, man.
Yeah, no, I'm sure everybody's going to stick around for it. Does that answer your question?
Actually, it does. I had no idea. I didn't know this about you.
That I stay in hotels with rock stars?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know it either, actually, about myself. Let's get back to it. Let's get back to our president. Let's complain about him a little. Let's embrace his regality a little bit, but let's listen to him as well. I want to hear what he is saying. A lot of this, and this is the typical. Listen, the last time we went into Libya in 1986, we bombed Libya. The retaliation for having bombed Libya was the downing of Pan Am Flight 103 by Gaddafi. The blood of every single person on that flight is on this man's hands, and he is given too much of a free pass for what happened there. We were retaliating, in fact. President Reagan said it when it happened, that we were retaliating for what happened to the Beirutis, what happened to the American troops in Beirut when we attacked him, and for the deaths of others, Americans around the world at the orders of Muammar Gaddafi. So at that time, it was really embraced. It would seem retaliatory. You also had a definite sense of mission. Even today, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mike Mullen, the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, was saying that he's not, or yesterday on 3 different shows, he said that he wasn't even sure what the long-term mission is. He won't lock in on a goal, is what he's saying. He's saying from the military perspective, the mission is very clear and it's limited in scope. I think for others, it's for others to determine where this will go long term. Well, it isn't really for others to determine. We have a president, we have an administration, we have a chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. When you go in, I mean, this is one of our big gripes about the Iraqi and Afghanistan attacks and military presence, is that there wasn't a long-term goal. How can you go into something and say it's for others to determine what the long-term goal is? Have a goal. I mean, I understand the administration doesn't want to lock itself into a position and to make promises that they cannot keep, but that's part of doing this. If you're going to go into another country, you're going to bomb another country where they haven't killed Americans in the immediate, then I think that, in fact, you have to have a long-term goal. And I think it's pretty sloppy gamesmanship for the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff to come out and say, well, we don't really know. It's for others, this is a quote, to determine where this will go long-term. Mullen went on to say that we've been very, very successful in the initial airstrikes. He promised to cut off supply lines to Tripoli, and he said the no-fly zone, which is what their military goal was, the no-fly zone is effectively in place. I just feel like just to get Muammar Gaddafi to not fly airplanes, that's a good immediate goal, but you have to have an answer to the question, what happens next? Yes, I'm sure that there are assurances that they've received from the rebels and the people fighting the Gaddafi government from within Libya that they're going to want democratic reform, et cetera, et cetera. But you have to state a goal, and I think that's a big problem for the administration, even from the liberals in Congress. And like I said, we'll talk about that later. Let's listen to the president. This is clip number 1, JR. It's President Obama.
In this effort, the United States is acting with a broad coalition that is committed to enforcing United Nations Security Council Resolution 1973, which calls for the protection of the Libyan people. That coalition met in Paris today to send a unified message, and it brings together many of our European and Arab partners. This is not an outcome that the United States or any of our partners sought. Even yesterday, the international community offered Muammar Gaddafi the opportunity to pursue an immediate ceasefire, one that stopped the violence against civilians and the advances of Gaddafi's forces. But despite the hollow words of his government, he has ignored that opportunity. His attacks on his own people have continued. His forces have been on the move. And the danger faced by the people of Libya has grown.
Yeah, so the president is of course blaming Gaddafi for this, and he should. And Gaddafi owns just about all of the blame for what's happened in Libya, and for kind of getting this response out of what is a broad, and I'll quote the president, a broad coalition. It's not a lot of the big players are not part of this coalition. There were 5 abstentions in the 5 or 6, I think it's 5 abstentions in the UN Security Council vote to enforce a no-fly zone. Other than that, nobody voted against it. But an abstention means that you're not getting it's not 16-0 or 15-0. It was 10-0 to 5, and I think that is a problem for the president in that his coalition that he's got going in here is not as strong and can also break apart very easily if things don't go well there. And again, it goes back to why there isn't a long-term goal. But, you don't want to criticize the president too much when you see the company you keep. And part of that company, John McCain actually said, and I think we have, yes, let's go to clip number 8. This is John McCain talking, Senator John McCain from Arizona, who almost was your president, sort of, not really. He is talking about President Obama, and this is clip number 8, JR.
You all, when I talked to you, called for that no-fly zone. And I think the question that's really out there now is it too late?
I hope it's not too late, and I believe it's not too late. Obviously, if we had taken this step a couple of weeks ago, a no-fly zone would probably have been enough. Now, a no-fly zone is not enough. There needs to be other efforts made. And I want to preclude ground troops, the U.S. or our allies' ground troops. That is not what we are talking about. But there's a whole lot of things that can be done. Also, we've got to get our assets over there. The aircraft carrier is a long ways away. Aircraft carrier should have been on station a long time ago. But I think the boost to the morale, I think that some of the enforcement that you're going to see from ourselves and our allies, including a couple of the Arab countries, I think 3 of them, that I think we can turn this tide. I think the next 5 or 6 days we'll know.
Yeah, Senator McCain, and this is another quote from that interview on CNN. He said he waited too long. There's no doubt in my mind about it, talking about President Obama. But now it is what it is, and we need now to support him in the efforts that our military are going to have to make. And I regret that that we didn't act much more quickly, and we could have. I mean, I love this hindsight. I love criticizing him for doing exactly what he would have done. To say, I mean, how could enforcing a no-fly zone have been enough 2 weeks ago when it wasn't enough 2 weeks later? The key is that Gaddafi for years, for 10, 20, 30 years, has been defiant of the United Nations, has been defiant of any other coalition against him. So to just say that 2 weeks made a difference and to criticize the president just because you have to sit on TV and criticize him, but then say, oh, we're going to support our troops, that is, it's unfair and it is terrible politics. And fortunately, those terrible politics are why John McCain is a senator sitting next to a lame duck like Joe Lieberman on television with Candy Crowley on Sunday morning instead of making these decisions. You can be sure that John McCain would have acted far less responsibly and perhaps without a coalition had he been president. And I'm, you can't be sure of that, but I can guess that. And you can glean it from what he said yesterday on CNN. He's saying it should have happened a couple of weeks ago. The kind of coalition, small or large, that he could have gotten together a couple of weeks ago would have been very different. The United Nations didn't act in that time. We are responding officially to a United Nations no-fly zone put in over the country of Libya. A ceasefire that was ignored. The ceasefire wasn't even in place 2 weeks ago, so we can't even have used that as an excuse, this ignoring of a ceasefire. So it's so convenient for people like John McCain to sit in an armchair on a Sunday morning and say these things. And he is not alone. Let me tell you a couple of the other GOP hopefuls, like Rick Santorum, and I say hopeful, I mean no hopeful. Under any score, this is Rick Santorum, the former crazy crazy senator from Pennsylvania. Under any score, I don't know how you could play this worse than this president has. I think we are going to be involved potentially in a very prolonged standoff or UN peacekeeping, or who knows what we could be involved in the long term. The president put us in a very difficult situation. Without, of course, saying what he would have done, which is he probably would have gone in with John McCain a few weeks ago and put us in a similarly difficult situation. Let's skip now to another man running for president. This is former House Speaker Newt Gingrich. It is impossible to make sense of the standard for intervention in Libya except opportunism and news media publicity. The president trying to get news publicity. Yeah, you don't see a lot of the president on the news. It would be nice if they showed, I don't know, Barack Obama on television once in a while. That would be good. But, you know, a good bombing like this gets him on television. It seems ridiculous to see that. And another thing is the president went about his business. This is not that he was trying to be a scene stealer here. He went to Brazil. He's working on Latin America. I don't think that this is the kind of thing where he just stopped because he was trying to wag the dog, as it were. Iran and North Korea, this is Gingrich continuing, are vastly bigger threats. Mugabe has killed more people, and that's the president of, or dictator in Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe, has killed more people. The Sudanese dictatorship has killed more people. There are a lot of bad dictators doing bad things. I think it is naive of Newt Gingrich, and I don't disagree with the fact that we are often very willy-nilly in the way that we deal with foreign dictators. The fact that we went into Iraq, Mr. Gingrich, instead of going into Zimbabwe, instead of going into Sudan. I mean, please don't try and pretend that you, Newt Gingrich, were for going into Sudan or Zimbabwe over Iraq. It's the same argument. It is a slippery slope down which you will certainly fall in your run for the presidency. You're a smart man, but you say foolish things all the time. And I think that is, that's the tenor of the opposition that the president is facing right now. And I think that what we're going to see is the president sort of rising above a lot of this, and then they're going to see some real minds come in, perhaps Richard Lugar, perhaps others on the Republican side, to have a real debate about where this goes in Libya. If it is just about containing the no-fly zone, not going in and getting or killing Gaddafi, I don't know that that's what they want to do. I'm sure they'd like to, but I think the removal of Gaddafi is what Obama wants. They would like to see him forced to step down. He doesn't seem like the kind of man who will, but that's just my guess. And I think as it goes forward, we're going to have regular people who are not running for president from a crazy party talk to the president about this and talk to us about this.
Welcome to the social commentary hour, the Anna hour, the hour that still goes on unnamed, but that's okay.
Why can't it just be called the Anna hour?
Because I feel weird calling it the Anna hour. Like, Cenk is the creator of the show. There's no Cenk hour.
It doesn't matter. He decided to call it the Young Turks. It's the Anna hour.
All right.
Where did we get the Young Turks from? The dual meaning of that.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
By the way,
because he's from Italy.
By the way, the Young Turk,
no, that would make,
no longer the Young Turk, more like the middle-aged Turk who turned 41 years old today.
Yeah. Well, what does that say about the guy sitting next to you who's turning 45 next month?
Slightly older Turk.
Yeah.
No, it's okay.
The old jerk. So I think it's the Anna hour. That's what I'm going to call it, and I think that's what people should start. Because if it doesn't get named, then it's like, I don't know, like
it's the second hour of the show that everyone complains about.
Right. Do people complain about it?
Yeah, let's not get into that, though.
All right.
We have awesome stories for this hour, so I want to get right to it. And first, we have a couple updates. I don't know if you've heard about Alexandra Wallace.
Yeah, the anti-Asian.
Yes, the anti-Asian UCLA student. Well, I have an update on her. Alexandra Wallace is now saying that she plans on leaving UCLA because of the harassment that she's facing from the hordes of Asians that go to the university.
Well, is she saying the harassment is only from Asians?
No, she didn't say that.
No,
but
I think she's facing harassment from everybody. I mean,
she is. She is facing harassment from everyone. And, she's apologized profusely several different times. In fact, I have her second apology for you, and I want to read it and ask you whether or not you think that it is a good apology. if you're buying it. She says, in an attempt to produce a humorous YouTube video,
Right.
fail. I have offended the UCLA community and the entire Asian culture, especially in the wake of the ongoing disaster in Japan. I would do anything to take back my insensitive words. I could write an apology letter all day and night, but I know that they wouldn't erase the video from your memory, nor would they act to reverse my inappropriate action.
Oh!
Yeah, I mean, listen, apology or not, she thought it was funny. So by just saying
that was my attempt at a humorous video.
Right, so by saying that that's humorous, then you have something else to apologize for. Can we hear that, just that sound
Let's
effect
listen to
one
the
more time?
whole sound clip. It's my favorite sound clip.
Okay.
Oh! Ching chong ling long ting tong. Oh!
She's such an idiot.
Yeah.
By the way, have you ever heard any Asian start a sentence by going, oh? Like,
Well, yes, I have, by the way. I'm going to just say, yeah, I'm not going to apologize to the UCLA community, but yes, I've heard that.
I do it all the time.
Yeah, well, that's because it's his name, so he can't help it. But I think that the one that was sort of, it was a little accurate. Like when I walk into the place where I go for chicken skewers in our little Tokyo village here in Los Angeles, the lady always says, "Oh, Mike."
Oh, I
like,
see.
She and JR call me
Oh!
Mike. Yeah. And so yes, but I have to say, I'm just going back to the humor. This is humorous because of how ridiculous it is. But this is not. I mean, the fact that she thought this was humorous and that she was an attempt at humor means she has to issue a whole set of new apologies.
Of course, yeah. So
to
the
anyone with a sense of humor.
right. So the beginning of that apology was disastrous.
Yeah.
You admitted that it was an attempt to make a humorous YouTube video.
Right.
Fail. So she's leaving UCLA. We talked about how this entire incident has completely ruined her life. Now it's ruining her education. I mean, it's highly possible that she's going to transfer to another college or university and everything's going to be fine. But this video will be online for the rest of your life. Your attempt to be humorous will haunt you for the rest of your
Dude,
life.
she's gonna get on a reality show. This is gonna be fine. She'll be
Yeah,
okay.
she'll be. JR's
Celebrity
right.
rehab.
Yeah, she's right. She landed in the age of celebrity. She'll be fine. She'll be fine. She'll slough it off. She'll marry an Asian guy one day. Everything will be fine. No, but I know what you mean. I mean, she's gonna have to live with this for a while. I don't think people live with this stuff forever anymore. I mean, she's gonna have to. I guess in the age of YouTube that they do. But I just think that I'm glad UCLA didn't kick her out.
Yeah, UCLA, by the way, decided to completely let her go. She faced absolutely no consequences from the university, no discipline. And the reason why they did that, I agree with their decision.
I do too.
The reason why they did that is because they felt that she was exercising her freedom of speech and that it was not considered hate speech. So they said, look, we got to let her go.
Yeah.
And I like that because, it was free speech. And she already suffered the consequences without UCLA getting involved.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where hate speech begins, but it wasn't like she didn't single out any one person or any one group for decimation or anything. She just mocked them and said that she finds them annoying, which
Ching chong ling long ting tong.
exactly. That is the translation of what I just said. Okay. So anyway, she'll go on to greener pastures someplace else, and the education. How did she get into UCLA? Is really the question.
That's the discussion that we originally had.
Yeah.
How is it that she got into UCLA? And JR made a good point about how you see idiots in the top universities all the time, whether it's
That's
because
true.
their families have money or because the college or university wants a little diversity. They don't
Right.
want nothing but highly intelligent students. Sometimes they want to balance it out with a couple
And
idiots.
plus, when you're a minority at UCLA, like Alexandra Wallace is, I guess it's easy to get in. You get sort of favored status. Right?
All right, I have another update for you guys. We showed a video to you guys on Friday featuring two schoolboys in Australia. One of them was a bully who got body slammed by the person he was harassing. Okay, so we have an update on that story, and we have a video on it. So why don't we show the video and we'll discuss it.
When you saw the video, did you get a surprise that your son
This is the bully's
was
mother.
taunting the boy like that?
I was actually shocked because I've always brought all my 3 children up to walk away from fights.
Go, Richard, go. Well, this is getting sad, bro.
So what did you say to your son?
I had a lot to say to my son yesterday. I said he was wrong for what he'd done.
Tina Gale's 12-year-old son Richard started this fight. The larger Year 10 student certainly finished it.
In some respects, there are a lot of people saying that your son got what he deserved.
In a way, yes, he did, but the other kid was a lot older as well.
Tina admits that her son should know better, but he is still a child, and she contends that he is now being demonised disproportionately because the fight has gone viral over the World Wide Web.
That's my son, Bob. I also feel sorry for the other family, what's going on, but we don't need this posted everywhere as well. We should be able to get on with it.
The other boy's parents refused to comment today on the incident, which is the last in a growing list of schoolyard biffs and bullying gaining global audiences thanks to camera phones and the internet.
Okay, so you see the bully's mother in that video, and everyone was curious to see how his mother would react. Would she be upset that the student that her son was harassing body slammed him? Would she be upset?
You mean the larger year 10 student? Yeah. The larger year 10 student.
Look, we don't want an Alexandra Wallace on our hands.
I'm sorry,
okay?
yeah. No, I'm just in Australia. I apologize to everyone. I'm leaving Young Turks
In
right
my
now.
attempt to make a humorous video.
Right, to make fun of Australians. There's some they do their laundry and stuff in my building. Anyway.
You don't want to pick on the Australians.
No,
I know from experience.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
But anyway, so the mother is essentially saying, look, my son deserved it, and he should definitely apologize. She's also saying that now her bully son is receiving a ton of harassment himself, and she feels bad for him. And, she gets really emotional. And, my heart kind of goes out to her because it's tough for a mother to see her son get treated so poorly on the internet.
Body slammed.
Body slam.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. And whoever your child is, he's your child, and you
of course.
You don't, and he's, but I he's anonymous to everybody who's watching this, except in that small circle and wherever they are in Australia. But it's just I understand why she's concerned and why she's upset, but. I mean, her son bullied, this happened, and I don't think the rest of the world knows his name and his address and who he is. And
right. I mean, one thing that she should keep in mind is that this is something that is happening now, and it's something that'll pass. But I love the fact that she's holding her son accountable. She's not she's upset that her son got body slammed, but she said, look, he was asking for it. He deserved it. And I think a lot of people were expecting her to stand up for her son. She's not standing up for her son. She's upset about the fact that people are harassing him now and giving him a hard time, and she wants that to stop. But I love that she's holding her son accountable. I think that that's an important thing for her to do.
He got, just schooled. That was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I don't. What was he saying? I didn't hear we don't have to replay it. But do you know what was his bullyingness? What was he saying to the?
I don't know what he was saying to the boy he was bullying. By the way, the bully's name is Richard. The boy that was getting bullied, his name is Casey. I don't know what he was saying to Casey, but Casey actually had a really fascinating interview with a television station in Australia, and he was talking about how much bullying he faced throughout, his lifetime, I guess.
Right.
He was talking about how...
Guess what's over? The bullying that Casey's going to face,
He said that at one point he got suicidal, and then when this happened, he just snapped. He was like, I can't take it anymore. I'm going to body slam this guy.
Yeah.
And it's going to stop. And no one's bullying him anymore, and people are actually looking at him like a hero. They're considering him a hero.
Talk about taking decisive action earlier. Maybe Casey should have done that.
Yeah. Seriously. But.
All
right, let's go on to the next story. So I found this Newsweek article that I knew you would love, Michael, and it has to do with a poll that Newsweek did, okay?
Yeah.
So they gave 1,000 Americans the U.S. citizenship test, and they wanted to see how many of these Americans would actually pass this test, all right? And Newsweek was somewhat shocked to find that 38% of the Americans failed the test. So you would think, U.S. citizenship test, it probably has some hard questions. Let me tell you some of the questions that people failed. So 29% couldn't get the vice president's name. 73% couldn't correctly say why we fought the Cold War. 44% were unable to define the Bill of Rights, and 6% couldn't even circle Independence Day on a calendar.
Yeah, I mean but that's 6%. I mean, I looked at these numbers, and if you asked me how many Americans, what percent of Americans could tell you who Joe Biden was, who the vice president was, that's me just showing off that I know who he was. I would have said that it was greater than 29% of people who were unable to do it. Is that right? Do we say that 29% couldn't? So
yeah,
greater than, I would have
not.
said, this is like Card Sharks. Do you ever see that game show on the Game Show Network?
No.
What are you watching on television if you're not watching Card Shark reruns? But 100 people, I would have said that 48% of them could have told you who Joe Biden was.
Mm-hmm.
And 71% can. So some of these things I found, and to talk about the Cold War, I mean, there's the Cold War, did it end in 1989? Did it end earlier before the wall came down? Who knows? But the point is that it's shocking considering we teach that history to so many people. But I mean, what was the number? 44% were, 73 couldn't say why we fought the Cold War. I found that pretty surprising.
Yeah, that's extremely surprising. Yeah. And look, the reason why this story is such a big deal, in my opinion, is the fact that we're using this test to judge whether or not immigrants can be deemed citizens in the United States when our own citizens don't know what the answers are to these questions. That's unacceptable.
Yeah. Is this non-immigrant? I mean, is this two generations? Who was?
The people who took this test were U.S. citizens.
Right, but they could have been naturalized citizens. They're not. It's not like someone who's been like a second or third generation American taking this test. It could have been someone who was.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. Hold on, I just lost my train of thought. Okay. The reason, and another thing that's so interesting about this story is, all of the different excuses that are outlined in this article. So, apparently there was a comparative study done that showed the level of ignorance in the United States versus the level of ignorance in Europe.
Right.
So Europe basically schooled us when it came to history, right? When it came to these similar types of questions. And, historians in the U.S. and experts in the U.S. say, well, the reason why that's the case is because European countries don't have the same type of bureaucracy we have in the United States. And because of the bureaucracy we have in the U.S., people become intimidated by all of the information that they need to learn when it comes to our own system of government.
Because of bureaucracy?
Because of bureaucracy. That was one of the excuses. And I don't buy that at all. Okay?
No, it makes zero sense.
Yeah, the vice president has nothing to do with bureaucracy. You should know who the vice president is. Yeah. You should know when the 4th of July is, okay? Yeah. Or what the 4th of July stands for.
Right.
It amazes me that they can't circle Independence Day.
But 6% can't. So that means,
6% I think is significant.
So yeah, I mean, it's amazing that 100% of the people don't know when Independence Day is. Mm-hmm. That is amazing. 6% though does not mean that our society is falling apart, in my estimation. Mm-hmm. And I'm the first person to I can't watch jaywalking because it offends me when people don't know that. So I just get so uncomfortable by it, as you can imagine. But by the same token, 6%, I think that's sort of Mm-hmm. If you're dealing with new America, I mean, it's shocking, but it's not. I don't think it means that we're in the breakdown of American society.
No, it's not the breakdown of American society, but it does have
Alexandra
negative
Wallace
consequences.
is the breakdown of American society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would argue that the people who fail this very simple test are on the same level as Wallace.
Right, exactly. So they're all UCLA students. Perfect, we figured that out. We've solved it. Yeah, no, these are shocking numbers. It's always shocking when you hear that people don't know stuff that they should know. And it's not, you don't have to dig deep to know any of these things. That's the thing. And we should be teaching, people should come out of history class knowing a little bit about the Cold War and be able to kind of articulate what it was.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to tell you how much money New York City spent last year on busting people with less than an ounce of pot. Okay, that story and more when we come back.